Good evening, San Francisco, and welcome back to SF Commons. Tonight we are very delighted to present a trailblazing woman in the field of public service. And since she has had so much accomplishments, I asked her if I can read her list of accomplishments, and so I'm going to cheat. Her name is Gayle McLaughlin. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology, graduating summa cum laude. Gayle is a founding member of the Richmond Progressive Alliance, RPA, a corporate-free grassroots political organization, which has many successes in Richmond, California. The RPA is also an Our Revolution affiliated organization, and Bernie Sanders endorsed her in 2014. Gayle was elected and served the people of Richmond for the last 13 years as Richmond's first corporate-free council member. And to term mayor, she blazed the path in Richmond, and in 2017, Richmond has a supermajority of 5 out of 7 council members who are true progressives, members of the RPA, and elected without a dime of corporate money. They accomplished something that's quite impossible in the field of politics.
For being here tonight. I mean, this is really a wonderful, wonderful gathering of people, such a great turnout for such a wonderful special guest we have in Bernie Sanders. I'm just so honored that we have him here, and I'm so honored that we have all pulled together over this last decade to work so hard together to create a better Richmond. And we have made tremendous progress, and in the next 4 years we're going to create even more progress. And we've never used national and state level political gridlock as an excuse for standing by and doing nothing in our city. Instead, we've managed to become a model 21st century city in transformation, applying bold and innovative solutions to chronic problems. And we're a model for other cities to emulate. But no city is an island. Some of the problems we've been working on, like stopping home foreclosures, taxing corporations fairly, creating more jobs, protecting our environment, and ensuring railway safety, they cry out for state and federal solutions as well. And it's been said that all politics is local politics. And in fact, there is no place like Richmond to experience the blatant evil of Citizens United with the Chevron Corporation.
So Gayle, hello.
Hello,
and
Myrna.
welcome to SF Commons. So how are you doing in your campaign?
Oh, the campaign is doing wonderful. I'm delighted to be running this campaign for Lieutenant Governor of California. Let me share a little bit about what this campaign is about, and it does kind of emerge from the work I've done in Richmond. In the RPA, and thank you for reading that introduction about our work in the RPA. And we, have done this work now for over 12 years, and we've made many accomplishments in Richmond. And to, really have this kind of organization, which is a diverse, inclusive, year-round progressive organization like the RPA, and keep it in place, not just in election years, but year in and year out. That's what we did in Richmond. And we were able to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We reduced crime dramatically. We reduced our homicide rate 75%, and we now we have this big oil refinery in Chevron, in Richmond, the Chevron oil refinery, and we beat them on the electoral field. They spent $3.5 million to try and defeat me and other progressives in 2014. And all of our progressive candidates, myself included, won, and all of the Chevron candidates lost. We also got $114 million in additional taxes from Chevron. We also got the first new rent control law passed in California in 30 years in Richmond.
Wow.
We're a part of a community choice aggregation program where 85% of our residents get their electricity from cleaner, greener, and cheaper sources of energy. So these are just some of the accomplishments we've made. And people started asking us, and this dovetails into why I'm running, people started asking us, how did you do that in Richmond? How did you get the crime down and you get money, so much taxes from Chevron and beat them on the electoral field and get rent control and, and all the other things you did? And so I started giving presentations to other communities up and down California. And at a certain point, it became clear that, if we ran a statewide race, we'd have a larger stage, a louder megaphone to get out the message of building from the grassroots up, building that local political power. So I decided to run for lieutenant governor. And this, in its essence, is an organizing campaign.
Right.
So for the last few months, I've been encouraging the development of progressive alliances, and so far we have a San Diego Progressive Alliance has emerged. There's been a South Bay Progressive Alliance, Pinole, Pacifica, South Bay, LA, North Coast. So we're really getting these progressive alliances building themselves from the grassroots. They're doing it in their own cities, with their own issues, and they're running people for office, just like Richmond did. And then when I win, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to win this lieutenant governor campaign, then I will keep organizing and network the progressive alliances together so that we can get the statewide issues implemented that we need. And
in California, fracking.
Sure, yeah.
Let's talk about fracking, because we have water problems.
I talk to people who are very much organizing around the fracking issue, and it's very, very important to all of us to stop this horrible, dangerous operational process that really contributes to more earthquakes. It causes, poisoning and contamination of our water. It's really dangerous health-wise, and it's dangerous to our environment, to the contamination of our bay. So that's one of the many issues, along with things like single payer.
One of the issues that I think it's resonating right now would be how much our government is spending on wars. IB Times produced an article that our government is spending $250 million a day on wars. The Congress just passed the budget with a $700 billion apportionment for the military, and Democrats and Republicans voted for it.
I come from the anti-war movement. I'm a lifelong activist, and I have been involved in anti-war work since I was a young adult. And our country is involved in all these different countries, these wars, these interventions all over the globe. And not only, first and foremost, it's causing great harm to people's lives and, in these countries, and to the U.S. forces that are going out into these places. But it's also taking those valuable resources, that money that should and could be used on things that we need in this country. So I'm definitely, when I was mayor in Richmond, I was a member of Mayors for Peace, which is an international organization led by the mayor of Hiroshima. And it was very, very gratifying to be a part of that group with mayors globally that were advocating for peace and to stop this horrendous buildup of arms that our country really is doing daily. Like you say, the military budget, Congress gave the president more than he even asked for, which was ridiculous to begin with. So, and if we stop these wars, and if we tax the corporations that we should be taxing, we would be able to have the money for everything. And that's some of the programs that I'm standing for are single-payer Medicare for all and free college And we could utilize money by taxing the corporations. And of course, if we stop the wars, we should be getting more money from our federal government.
Yeah.
And we could use that money to put everybody into college and to make sure that health care is there for all.
Right.
And the other corporate, there's 3 corporate approaches that I'm standing for in California. One is to reform Prop 13 to close the corporate loophole.
Right.
Right now, you know, the corporations have taken advantage of Prop 13. It should
Right.
be for average homeowners.
Exactly. That was the intent.
That was the intent.
Right.
And so there will be, if we close that corporate loophole, there will be $9 billion extra money coming into the state every year.
Right.
Another tax measure is a progressive millionaire's tax. So for each $1 million that someone takes in, they would have to pay a higher tax bracket.
Right.
And a third one is an oil extraction, oil severance tax, which means we're the only major oil producing state in the nation that doesn't tax oil extraction. So my view is that, first of all, we ban fracking. I'm glad you started out with that, because we have to, banning fracking will start the process of ending fossil fuel usage. I mean, there'll still be, about 20 years from what I hear, even with banning fracking, that they'll continue operations. However, if we, during that process, when extraction happens, without the fracking, they still will be utilizing some form of extraction, we should get that tax money, and we should use it to really help our whole state get renewable energy, solarize the whole state, give rebates to homeowners to put solar on their rooftops.
The lieutenant governor does not really do much.
Well, it's what you make of it. That's what I say.
But, however, you do have jurisdiction on the coast, the Coastal Commission, the universities, and so on and so forth. What are your platforms on those areas?
Serves on the UC Board of Regents and the California State University Board of Trustees. So I see serving on those seats as a way to advocate and organize around free college. So, I mean, I'm already working with students, and, of course, students are very eager to get to that point, and I know that there are so many student leaders that are advocating for this. So, the lieutenant governor is the president of the Senate, but only has a vote if there's a tie. But I can put out a lot of information and use that bully pulpit to put pressure with the community. Nothing happens because of one person, not even an elected official. You need that mobilization. So I see students mobilizing, and together we will put pressure on the legislature to make free college happen in California. And you also mentioned the Coastal Commission, again, bringing people together, groups together, and putting pressure on the legislature to do the right thing in terms of moving, into a climate justice realm and moving faster to move into renewables and away from fossil fuel dependency. And that's what I would do as lieutenant governor. And we can make things happen when we stand together and when we have the power of numbers, people power. And I want to, you mentioned something about the terrible, situation in San Francisco and other cities, all the poverty, and there's
homeless
such
problems,
affluence, and then there's so much poverty. And one of the things,
about the income inequality, it's incredible.
Yes, it really is, and it's growing further and further. It's
amazing.
Wider and wider gap. And
I see older people, suddenly they're out of, they work in a corporation, and then suddenly they're out of a job there, and next thing you know, they're having to work 2 to 3 jobs, 2 to 3 minimum paid jobs, just to pay the rent.
That's why we worked so hard to get the rent control law passed in Richmond. And so what we need to do statewide is have statewide rent control, and to repeal Costa-Hawkins and the Ellis Act, which limits us from protecting all renters. If we eliminate those regulations, those bills, those laws, we can protect all renters and keep the rents down. Yes, they could raise the cost of living a little each year, but not the skyrocketing rents that we have now. And the other thing we need is truly affordable housing to be built.
Yeah.
And I have some ideas that we could utilize. For example, we should give tax incentives to those developers, especially nonprofit developers, who want to build truly affordable housing, not just what the state calls affordable, which is often those who make $80,000 a year. We're talking about those who make $30,000, $40,000 a year. We should be having developers build for those folks. And also, we should put a higher tax burden on the luxury developers. You know, those who are building those luxury developers, they should have higher tax rates. And maybe they'll change their mind and not build so many luxury houses and start building more affordable because, you know, the tax rate would be lower. We also need land trusts. You know, land trusts is when a nonprofit or a city owns the land, and the houses would be owned by, you know, the family in a much more affordable way because land is incredibly high. So those are some ideas. You know, other things, of course, raise the minimum wage, and it's just a start. $15 an hour is just a start to where it should be. You know, ultimately, we need a true living wage. But poverty, you're so right, is a major issue.
Watch, like from San Francisco, I grew up in San Francisco. I just watch the economy. First, people were like, okay, we have the middle class. Next thing you know, then there's the .com, right? Boom. And then all of these monies. And the next thing you know, things just are getting so expensive. The parking tickets and so forth. And then you see families being literally forced out.
That's right. That's right. And you know, one thing we tried to do in Richmond anyway was, and these are all fights. You know, you fight back against the corporations, you fight back against Wall Street. During the foreclosure crisis, Richmond was hit pretty hard. And I championed, along with the community, a program that was called Richmond Cares, but informally we called it the Eminent Domain Program, where the city was seeking to acquire underwater mortgages from the big banks and then reduce the principals, all the while keeping the homeowners in the home. And then with a reduced principal, put the mortgage back in the homeowner's hands so they have affordable payments month to month. So that was really, you know, utilizing the city's power. Unfortunately, Congress put a stop to that because Wall Street got to Congress and they said no city, any city that acquires mortgages by eminent domain will get no government insurance on the mortgage. So that stopped it, unfortunately. But in the future, maybe we could get Congress to change and we could reinvigorate that eminent domain program.
Wow, that's odd.
So the campaign is going really well. I visited, I mean, probably 70 cities, made so many presentations over the past few months only. And what I'm doing and what is happening is people are building these progressive alliances that I mentioned. And so, and I'm visiting these Our Revolution groups. Bernie Sanders, of course, is someone that endorsed me in 2014 in my campaign. And I've already gotten the endorsement because the OR groups, the Our Revolution groups, are the groups that were launched by Bernie Sanders after the primary. And I've already gotten the endorsement of 20 local Our Revolution groups in California, and about 10 more are on the way, and that's more than half of them already, you know, so I think there's about 70 of them, so or 60 or something. So I'm definitely getting their support and getting the progressive alliances that have emerged, getting their support, getting union support, getting so many individuals and progressive elected officials support. And I'm just very pleased. The whole effort, our whole strategy, of course we're never going to have as much money as the establishment candidates because they take that big corporate money and those PACs, those big corporate PACs support them. But the way we're doing this is with field groups. We have something called Gayle for California clubs, and we're creating 200 Gayle for California clubs up and down the state where individual groups of community members who support me and support my approach to governance are distributing information about me as well. There were all kinds of field teams for Bernie.
He has
So
what, 330,000 volunteers in California.
Right. Yeah, so we're tapping into that volunteer base because we know what Bernie.
David Hildebrand, who's running against Feinstein.
Right. I endorsed David, and David endorsed me, and we've got a great social media
You've got a
crew.
great team.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Wonderful supporters, wonderful donors, wonderful email writers.
Right. A short amount of time, you've started really gaining a momentum. You've got a momentum going.
I agree. And I think the reason why is because I am not making this about me. I'm making this about us.
Right.
I mean, I'm someone who has a track record. And again, that track record in Richmond came because of a lot of people working together. So now I'm saying, hey, yes, I'm willing to run this race, and I'm desiring to be your voice in the lieutenant governor's seat. But this isn't about me. This is about us. We have to stand strong together, and we have to really release the corporate grip that corporations have over our politics. And I think people want us to do that. And so my campaign is working hard to play a role in that. And I would say that together we're going to make a difference. Please check out my website. It's GayleForCalifornia.org. If you could give a donation, please do. We don't take corporate donations, so we need lots of small donations, and it really does add up. And know that, this is a period of struggle, but the future is ours. So together we're going to make the difference.
Excellent. Well spoken. Exactly how I felt. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. And please, Gayle's website is in the third portion of this screen. It's on the screen, actually. And so anyway, thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll see you again next time. Good night.